I guess I saw comments about they pulled the incel one. I never ended up seeing it.
Yes.
So why did they pull the...
Because he was an actor.
Oh.
He wasn't even a real incel. He was an actor playing an incel in a movie, and he was promoting the movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to. It was a good video. It was a great video.
Because I saw comments, and I'm like, oh, I never even got to see that.
Yeah.
So it's like...
No. That's the kind of bullshit I have to deal with.
Well, but...
Every day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. All right, you ready? Don't think about it.
Huh?
Don't think about it.
Don't think about it?
Yeah,
Are you already recording it?
Yeah, I am. We're just having a conversation.
We're just having a conversation.
People get nervous. There's no reason to be nervous. You know your story.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up, Nicole?
Okay. So I grew up in Lake Forest, Southern California, in a middle-class family. My mom was a teacher, high school teacher. She taught psychology and history. And my father drove trucks. I came from a good family. I know a lot of your stories come out with people that came from really horrific childhoods, but mine's not like that. My parents they had me in dance class and singing class, and I was an absolute spoiled brat. Absolute spoiled brat. And I'll be the first one to say that. But something really big happened when I was 5 years old. I think I was about kindergarten. And my house ended up getting broken into. Now, I can explain what happened and how it kind of like almost sounds like a scary movie. But my mom and I, we were driving home. We'd go to the gym. She picked me up from after school care. We'd go to the gym. It was nighttime. It was raining. We drive up to the house, and I already felt like something was not right. And we drive up, and the house was pitch black. My dad wasn't home. My older brother, I have an older brother. He wasn't home. He's my stepbrother. And we roll into the driveway, and usually I'd get out to get the mail, but I just felt like something wasn't right. Something wasn't right. So we pull in. And my garage was on top, so you had to walk down. So we walked down to the house, and we walk in, and my mom and dad's room is to the right, and all of her jewelry, all of her stuff is all over the bed. Just her drawers, everything, credit cards, like all of her stuff is just all over the bed. And she looks at me, and I'll never forget, she goes, "Did you play dress up today?" And she knew the answer, but I think she just wanted me to say, "Yeah, I played dress up today and all your stuff." And I look at her and I'm like, "Mom, really?" And so you could walk across, there was an entryway, and the doors were wide open. And there was black footprints all over my mom's white living room. And I said, "Mom, look at this." And we called the cops. And the cop said, "Get out of the house right now." And I remember that because I was like, why? My mom was so calm about it. And I think she just didn't want to freak out in front of me. Like, she didn't want me to freak out. So we leave. We go to the neighbor's house. We call my dad. We call the cop. Like, everybody shows up. And we go back in the house. And I think this is what did it for me, was they came in. They weren't in the house, but they came through my window. And my window was down on the lower, we had a forest in the back, and it was the back window, but it was pitch black back there. And they came through my window. And after that, I was just like, I didn't want to be down there by myself. And I had an older brother, half brother, he's 15 years older than me. He was on the other side of the hallway. But I remember just thinking, I'm okay if somebody else is down here with me. But at night, and this is why I say, like, I adore my parents, and my mom wasn't the most, like, I love you, huggy, kissy. That's not how she was brought up because her mother wasn't like that. But if I needed something, she was there. If I needed someone to fight for me at school or like just be my advocate, she was there. She was always there for me. And my dad, I remember because my mom had to wake up early to go to work in the morning. So I would wake up at night because I didn't want to sleep down there by myself. And I'd go in the room and I'd wake my dad up and my mom and I'd be like, I can't, can I sleep here tonight? Or can you guys come? And my dad would come down, he would check the doors. He's like, nobody's here, don't worry. And he would come down and he would either fall asleep and wait for me to fall asleep, or he would just stay down there until I fell asleep. So that's why I can't, I could never say anything bad about my parents. After that kind of lasted until my teenage years. And then my teenage years, I was just totally, I drank, I was just a party animal. And I was just a spoiled brat. And I think my parents just kind of didn't know what to do with me. I kind of just did whatever I wanted to. I wasn't like malicious to people but I just didn't care. I just did whatever I wanted. And my parents were kind of like fighting during the end of my senior year, and they ended up getting a divorce. My dad was he would drink a little bit, but he lost his job, but he had a business. So he's like, oh, I'll just do my business. And my mom's like, yeah, but you're drinking more. And so they were fighting more, and then they just divorced when I was 18.
I used to do Google searches for my own name, and I was always really disturbed what I'd find. Seeing my personal information out there for anyone to grab, it's just uncomfortable. That's why I've started using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura not only shows me which data brokers are peddling my info, but also takes action by sending opt-out requests on my behalf. Data brokers are making a fortune by selling our personal information to anyone willing to pay for it. It's not just harmless information and marketing stuff. They're selling everything from your email, home address, to your health records, even details about your relatives. Cleaning up my digital footprint isn't just avoiding scam emails. It's about protecting myself from potential hackers who could exploit that information and wreak havoc on my life. From antivirus protection to VPN and password management, Aura's got it all covered. It's like having a digital security guard on duty 24/7. I'm too busy to deal with this stuff, but with Aura, I can go about my day knowing that my privacy is being safeguarded, leaving me free to focus on what really matters. So if you value your privacy as much as I do, go to aura.com/soft white underbelly to start your 14-day free trial. The link is in the video description box below. And now back to the video.
And then I just moved out and I went to college. I went to Humboldt State, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna get out of here and I'll live in the dorms, and I kind of just found my own way. But in the dorms was just like, I should have never lived in the dorms, because I went from partying in high school to totally partying in Northern California. So, and then all my friends were going to like Chico, San Francisco State. So it was just party school after party school. And so I said, you know what? I was getting straight A's. Oh, and I forgot to mention this. So even though I partied in high school, I was getting straight A's. I was doing I knew how to play hard, work hard. And my mom's like, how do you do that? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just get my work done and then just be able to have the rest of the time to do whatever I want. So they're like, okay, well, if you could do that, do it in college, figure it out. But I was getting straight A's in college. But then I was just having I didn't want to party with the girls that I was partying with. I just wanted to, I didn't want to go down that road. So they were starting to get into heroin and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, you know what? I can't do that. I can't go down this road. My roommate was she wanted to try out to be a stripper. And it's just I was like, all right, there's two ways that this can go. And I'm like, I'm not going down that road. I had a boundary that I was like, I can't cross that boundary. So those girls, I said, okay, I'm not going to hang out with them anymore. I'm done. But I had started having all these spiritual, supernatural situations. And I'm just going to give you an example. I may sound crazy, and that's okay. I remember this one night we were going downtown to listen to some music. There was always music playing. And in Humboldt State, it's such a small college town that you can walk everywhere. So we'd walk down to hear music. The bars were downtown. So we walked down there, and I start seeing people's faces like getting distorted. Like it was just like, and the girls that I hung out with, I was like, I'm not going to say anything. And I'm looking around like, is anybody else seeing this? Because I'm the only one seeing it. And their faces would just turn, and it freaked me out. I was sober. There was nothing and after that, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but this is crazy. So I didn't tell anybody about it, kind of kept it to myself. And I had a boyfriend that long distance, Southern California. He ended up coming up to stay with me, and I left school. I left college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was studying for communications and journalism. And I was like, I just don't know what I want to do. So I ended up working at the grocery store, and I probably was going to go back to school, and then he was working, and we had an apartment together, and everything kind of seemed like it was like, okay, we were just like trying to make it work. And I was still having these like crazy, like supernatural situations. Like one morning, I was in bed. He had already gone to work, and I'm laying there in bed, and I was asleep. And I woke up, but I couldn't move. And now that I find out, it's called night paralysis. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's where you feel like you're paralyzed in fear. And like I felt like I was out of my body, but you can't move. And I was just like, I've never had anything like that happen to me before. So I just didn't tell anybody about it, didn't know what it was, didn't look it up. I was just like, this is a freak thing. And but it scared me. I remember praying, and I was like, I didn't even know how to pray. And it went away, and I came to, and again, totally sober. And I would have these little situations, and I was just like, I didn't know what they were. And so then on my 21st birthday, I had this, we were going to bar to bar, and I just got so drunk that I almost died. I blacked out, and my boyfriend at the time had to hold me up because I would have choked on my own vomit, and it was so bad. And I remember the next day, or it was a couple days after that, and I was just like crying out, and I was just like, what do you want from me? Like, I was so, like, I knew there was more to life than what I was doing. I just didn't know what I was doing. Like, I was just like, what is going on with my life? What am I doing? Should I go back to school? I know I need to stop doing what I'm doing, but I didn't know how. And then I have all these supernatural things happening, and I'm just like, this is nuts. So then after that, like I said, I didn't tell anybody about any of that. I started having these crazy dreams. I started having these dreams about tsunamis, like vivid dreams. And at the time, I really didn't have anybody to talk to about any of this stuff with. And this guy comes in the store, and he's kind of a regular, and I start talking to him about spiritual things. And he's like, yeah, there's this tsunami that's coming. And I didn't even mention about my dreams. And I'm like, whoa. So then we start talking more, and I'm like, yeah, I've been having these dreams. And one thing you have to know about Humboldt County is in Arcata, at noon every day, there is a tsunami warning that goes on. So I didn't really put all the pieces together until like the last couple years of why I ended up having this man in my life. And he ended up saying, like, he knew the Bible, and I was trying to like find out about life, and I was trying to find out about who God is, and I was just having all these spiritual things happen. So, and he seemed to have all the right words to say, and he knew the Bible front to back, and he could answer all these questions that I had. And we ended up leaving together because he's like, well, a tsunami is going to come, and, you should leave. And I'm like, yeah, I'm having all these dreams. And I'm so naive, and I'm so young. And he totally took advantage of how naive and young I was, and he was so much older than me. So I even told my boyfriend at the time, we had an apartment, we had cats, I had a parrot, like we had a little life together. And I said, come on, I think we should leave. What if a tsunami does come? And he's like, no, I'm not leaving. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna leave. And so I did. I left with him. We used my van and we left. And we left at that point, and I didn't even know where we were going, but I knew that if something happened, I was just feeling like something could happen, and I left with them. And at that point, I didn't go to work that day. Everybody at work, like I always went to work on time. I was never late. I never called out. So when I didn't go to work that day, everybody was like, what's going on? Like everyone, they called the cops. They came to my apartment, and my boyfriend was like, they thought that he might have done something. So they're questioning him. They're like, where did she go? What's going on? My mom called my boyfriend. He's in tears. He's like, I don't know where she went. Like, I don't know what's going on. This guy, she hardly knows him. She left with him. And he just started bawling on the phone to my mom. I mean, my mom and dad tried to put out a missing persons, but they said because I'm over 18 that, like, I'm still shocked sometimes that I even went, because that's so not me. I'm a hard worker. I went to work every day. It's just not something that I would do. So I leave with them. We start traveling. And all of these, we start traveling to different places, and he's like, do you want to be a missionary? Do you want to like I wanted to help people. I wanted to maybe build houses in Mexico, or just do something worthy of, I just didn't want to live the life that I was just living, and I wanted to do something worthwhile. And so we ended up, he would tell me that he's a prophet and that he said these prophecies before and that they came true. And I didn't know anything about cults. I didn't know anything about prophets, or I just wanted to learn about God. And it was so innocent. And he knew that he could manipulate me. And I pretty much did whatever he said. He pretty much said, if you don't do this, I'm a prophet. If you don't do what I say, I'm going to, it became like, if you don't listen to me, you're not listening to God. And the more that I found out about cults, that's exactly what they do. So I put it like this: not all narcissists are cult leaders, but all cult leaders are definitely narcissists, without a doubt. What happened was he pretty much, I did what he said. I was so captivated by him, because cult leaders are very charming. They're most of the time they're very good looking. They know how to twist scripture. They know how to twist their words. They know how to have people do things for them. And then as I was talking to him, and I found out more about that he was in a cult. He was in the Navy, and he told me in San Diego there was this cult that he was in, that they would recruit Navy guys that didn't have a place to stay. It's always they would take advantage of vulnerable people. And that's what cult leaders do. And as he's telling me this, I started to put the two and two, and I thought, oh, maybe he just escaped from a cult, and he just, he got his, you're always giving the benefit of the doubt. he started revealing himself in more of a dark way. The shine starts losing its glow, and you start seeing people for who they really are. And he would have these rages that he would go into where he would just, like, his eyes would just get dark and he would just flip out. And it didn't get physical at first. It was very, like, psychological, breaking me down, breaking me down, breaking me down, until I did whatever he said. At first, I kind of argued because I had a very outgoing personality, and but I saw that arguing with him was not getting me anywhere. And so I would just stay quiet. And I thought, okay, well, if I just do what he says, everything will be fine. But that's not the case with cult leaders. It progressively gets worse and worse and worse. He isolated me. Again, he's like, your family doesn't understand you. Nobody understands you. I'm the only one that understands you. And I believed it. I was like, nobody understands, all these spiritual things that I'm going through. But as time progressed, I was like, well, you said that a tsunami was going to come, and it didn't. And he's like, yeah, but I didn't tell you when. And so he'd have little things that he would say. He's like, yeah, but I didn't give you a date. I'm like, yeah, but I just left my home. I left my boyfriend. I left everything because I had no plans to be with him. It wasn't a sexual thing. I wasn't planning on, but of course that wasn't his intent. So as I left and as we traveled, I traveled all over the United States with him. I wore what he wanted me to wear. I drove everywhere. I drove my van. We ended up getting another van. But he worked and he would travel and he would talk at different places, and he knew people at different places. But again, I was like isolated with him. I was too afraid to leave. I just did whatever he said, and I would drive hours and hours and hours. And whether he would go to speaking engagements or we'd go to festivals, or I started seeing how he spoke to people, and he would try to get things out of people. And he was just a total con artist. And we would stay with different people, and people would be like, why are you with him? Like, they were like, what is going on? And I thought things would get better, and we ended up getting married after we had a son together. For people that have been in cults or they know about cults, most of the time they do not believe in doctors. They don't believe in, like, dentists. They don't believe in any authority. They don't like anybody having authority over them at all. So he kept me away. So from like everybody, like we would travel and we would be in the woods. We would have, we'd set up camp in different places. I remember setting up camp in Montana. And that's where one time he just had this huge fit. He would this rage. And I thought, okay, well, if I just stay away from him when he's going into these rages, I'll be fine. Like, I always tried to, like, have survival techniques that I would do, whether it was go on long walks to just stay away from him. But you find, and I know a lot of other people in your show, Mark, they talk about that their mom or their dad had certain things that they would do to calm the abuser down. And it's fight or flight situation. There's no reason. You're not using reason. You're totally in survival mode. And I was in survival mode for 5 years, total survival mode. So we had a son together. He ended up being in the NIC unit. My mom ended up adopting him, and that was one thing that I had to like. I wanted him so bad, but I knew that I didn't want him to be around this monster that totally gave me a new name, totally. I mean, sometimes I would wear his clothes. Like, I didn't have a lot of clothes. So I went from being a middle class, going to college, and because I lost everybody because they thought I was just, I was nuts. They thought I was crazy.
Were you using drugs?
No. We smoked a little bit but not, I didn't do, no. Like, it was purely like I wanted to live a pure life. Like, I wanted to do the right thing. And
you believe this was the right thing?
And I wanted to live like a godly life, but I
mean, so you were into all this
like
woo-woo stuff with like, you were seeing things and there were
like I didn't know how to process all of it.
But was that your just young
but the more that I was in this, I was realizing, how the hell do I get out of this? Like, now I'm just like, okay, I couldn't talk to my parents because they were just like,
well, you married him and had a kid with him.
Right. And they're like, and that's why I say most people that are with abusers, they don't really realize, like, I never thought that I would be with somebody that was like that. And I understand now why they stay. So he would tell me, I'll just lie about you. So we ended up having 2 more children. But he wasn't getting physical with until I was pregnant with my last child with him. But as he was getting darker and darker and darker, and I didn't realize, I stayed in it because I was so afraid of him. And I was afraid of, okay, well, I was thinking he really was a prophet, but at that point, I started looking. So he would have me read the Bible, right? But as I was reading, I was realizing, I'm like, he's the wolf in sheep's clothing. Like, I really had these light bulb moments where I'm like, okay, because people would like say things to him and he would just go into these rages. And I'm like, aren't we supposed to pray for our enemies? Like, that's what the Bible, that's what Jesus says to do. And he's like, yeah, well, not these people. Like, I don't care about them. And so I saw, like, as he was getting darker and darker, I was starting to realize, you're the sheep, you're the wolf, and I'm got to get out of this. So I had to make a plan to get out. I started getting money together. I started, which he found out. I mean, I started really trying to figure out, okay, if I leave, I need to be able to leave and have somewhere to go that he's not allowed there. So he had a speaking engagement in New Jersey. Actually, it was Pennsylvania. So we go all the way. We go from like West Coast all the way to the East Coast. And he would just ask me to do these crazy things. Like, we were on the turnpike and the car started like fuming. And it was just like, he's like, get out. And I'm on the driver's seat. He's on the passenger. He's like, get out of the car and go check out the car. I'm like, mind you, you've been on the turnpike on the East Coast, mm-hmm. So there's cars whizzing by right there. But he wanted me to get out, and I'm like, and I'm this close to other cars, and I'm like, I'm not getting out. Like, he would do things where I would be in certain situations where, whether I was flying a sign, where I would never thought that I would do that. I always worked. So here I am.
You guys panhandled?
Yeah. He had me do it because he's like, well, more people give to you because you're a woman. So I never.
You were how old when this was all
Oh,
going?
I was like 23, 24. Yeah.
What goes through a person's head when they're are you brainwashed?
I was literally like, at the same time, like I wanted to do something, like, but I was in it, like, you're brainwashed. Yeah, you're absolutely. So I understand why people, they get themselves in these situations. And then I was so scared to get out. I didn't want him to hurt me. I didn't want him to hurt my family.
What do you think his goal was? You were his only follower, right?
I don't know. I think if he could have had more people follow him, he would have.
You were his only follower?
Well, there was this other guy that started coming with us, and then he's like, "No, I'm not doing this." And I'm like, "Yeah, you need to leave," like, because I don't blame him. I was like, I think I didn't know what to do, and I was so scared of him. But yeah, he would just say, "I'll lie about you, and I'll get your other 2 children taken," and I knew he would, and that's why I stayed. So then we go to Pennsylvania, and I remember we were staying with the family, and they didn't want him to be there. They're like, "He can't be there. You can be here with the children, but he can't be here." Because he started to really, like, it's like he couldn't hide who he really was anymore. So they said, okay. So we went to a hotel because I'm like, how am I going to get, like, this might be my chance to get away from him. So we go to the hotel. We're getting our car fixed. We're in the hotel. He leaves the hotel to go check out the car. And I remember I asked him, he was supposed to just get diapers. And I remember I have a 2-year-old. My mom has my first son. I have a 2-year-old son and a newborn baby. She was like 3 months old. And I remember we had diapers. He just had to go get them from the house that we were staying at. And he comes back and he's just like, "No, I didn't get them." And I'm like, "What do you mean you didn't get him?" Like, simple things like that. Like, he just did not care. He did not care. He only cared about himself. And that was it. Like, I'm like, I have to get out of this. So I wait for him to leave, and I just fall on the ground, and I'm just like weeping and sobbing. I'm like prostrate on the ground, and I'm crying. And I've never wept like that out of desperation. And I was just praying, and I was crying out to the Lord. I was like, "Get me out of this. This man is going to kill me. Like, he's going to kill me." And I remember just getting on the phone, and I call the family that we were previously staying with, and I said, "Pick me up. Pick me and the children up. I have to get out of this." And she's like, "Okay, is he there?" And I'm like, "No, he walked out. I don't know when he's going to be back, but can you just hurry up and pick me up?" So I grabbed the little bit that I had, and we left. And we left out of the window of the hotel room. We didn't even go out the front because I didn't even want the lobby to know that we were leaving. I didn't want anybody to know that we were leaving. And I don't even know how much cash I had on me, but they picked me up. And this woman doesn't know me. She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to pick me up. So she picks me up, and we leave. And he comes back, and he's freaking out. And she let him stay in an abandoned house across the street from where the house was. And so we're at the house, and I remember him calling me, and he's like, "We need to stay together. We need to, we're a family. We got to stay together." He's like, "Come over here to the house." And I'm like, "No, there's no electricity. There's no power. There's no nothing. I'm not coming over there." And he wasn't going to go to the authorities. So that's one thing I knew. He wasn't going to go to the cops. So I knew that was going to be, I was going to be able to do that. So I stayed, and I remember him coming over the next day, and he's like, "Oh, let me see the children. I want to see the children." So I stood outside the door so he could see them. He grabs my 2-year-old and just runs to the abandoned house across the street, locks the door. And I'm just standing there and I'm like, okay. Because he had never done anything like that before. And I'm like, and he grabs him, runs across the street. So I went over there and I'm crying. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I go over there and I have my daughter. I thought maybe I can just distract him a little bit. Well, that didn't work. I grab my son and he's like, where are you going? You're not going anywhere. You're not taking my son. And so I'm standing there with my daughter in my hands. Mind you, she's like 3 months old. And he just hits me, just full punch in my face. I fall all the way back with my daughter in my arms. And my daughter lands on me, like, I didn't let go of her all the way back. I mean, I fell. The neighbors heard me. I come up screaming. And that was the last time that he ever came on that street again. Like, that was it. I was done. That was my breaking point, was because he had never really laid his hands on me like that. I mean, there was times when I remember I was like 8 months pregnant where he pushed me really hard. And if the door hadn't been there, I held onto the door. If the door hadn't been there, I would have fell right on my stomach on the baby. So, I mean, it was getting to the point where he would just like I was just a slave. Like I was just, like, he could control me. Like he thought he could just do whatever he wanted. And so at that point, we leave. We come back to the house across the street, and I told him what happened. The cops were called. And the cops told him, they said, if you ever come on the street again, you'll be arrested. So that was my way of getting out. And, you know, I'm so thankful that I was able to get away, because not many women are able to get away.
How many years were you with him?
Like 5. Yeah. But, yeah, I was able to get away. But I realize now that, you know, I could sit here and be like, oh my goodness, how could people get abused? How could people stay? Those women are so stupid. No, they're just scared. They're just totally in fear. And I felt like I was such a disappointment because I didn't finish college. I was getting straight A's. I was, you know, it wasn't like I was a stupid person. I was just deceived. And that's what happens with a lot of these cults, because they're deceived. They're, you know, the cult leader gets the women that are very vulnerable, don't, you know, feel like nobody understands them. They want to live right. And they're like, oh, okay, I can show you what to do. And that's exactly what he did. He's a total manipulative con artist to the core. Like, I never met anyone like him before in my life. And I met his brother. His brother said that the same thing, like his family didn't talk to him because he just, you know, he lost it. So I was able to escape. I left. I got reunited with my mom and my first son. And at this point, I went MIA. Like, nobody knew where I was. After my first son, I was so, like, I think I lost all identity of myself. Like, I wasn't who I used to be. I was not that same girl. So I felt like I was just a disappointment to everyone. I was like, nobody cares anyway. I might as well just leave. And so I didn't call anyone. Nobody knew where I was when I was with him. I was totally MIA, like friends, family. And nobody, my parents did not, my parents didn't deserve that.
So it's crazy because my mom told me there was certain times when she would wake up in the middle of the night and she would be really cold. And she'd be like shivering. And she'd be crying out. And she's like, I want my daughter back. Like screaming at God. Like she was so upset. And then I spoke to her and I told her those certain nights that she cried out were nights that I was like out, like whether it was camping out or there's nights that I was in blizzards. I drove in a blizzard one night in Wyoming. Talk about stories. This night we were driving, and there was a blizzard in Wyoming, and there was a 18-wheeler coming the opposite way, and I tried to get out of the way, and we rolled into a ditch. And so there was nights where we had to get towed out of that, but we were fine. And I remember looking back, and my children were babies, and I remember looking back, and I'm like, as long as they're okay, like, I was okay. Like, I'm like, as long as they're not getting hurt, and I was just getting hurt, that I would be able to manage. But I never let him alone with them. I was always with them 24/7. So yeah, and I remember when my second son was born, we were on the road and I was driving, and I went into labor while I was driving. And I said, you got to take the wheel because I'm about to have the baby right now. So we drove off into, like, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And we went into a Sinclair gas station. There was like nobody there. And I had the baby right there in the back of the van. So I remember that night. It was so cold. We went into this what are they called off the side of the road? Where you go off like the highways and they're just like the bathrooms and stuff. What is it called?
The rest stop?
The rest stops. So in Utah, like Montana, those kind of states where it's, you know, below freezing, they have to have warm rest stops. The bathrooms have to be warmed. So we went in there, locked the door, and we stayed in there because it was warm. And this Mormon family was in Utah. This Mormon family opened up the door. We ended up staying with them for a while, and they took us to their house. And I was just like, this is, like, I can't do this. Like, this is not what I signed up for. But he just used that against me. So I was just so scared. I just wanted to get to a safe place where I could just be with my children without him. Like, I just...
When you finally got away.
So when I finally got away, we were at the house, and they said, you can stay, but he can't. And I said, perfect. Like, that's what I want. I don't want him. I need him as far away from me as possible. So they allowed me to stay with the children. And this family is a beautiful family. They took us in, and they didn't have to do that. They took us in, and they helped me get a job. And I love to work. I worked so hard, and her name was Margaret. It was a family. So they were a beautiful Trinidadian family, Christian family, and they really actually loved the Lord. Like, they were real they were real absolute gems. And they grew up in a family where the mom and the dad took people in, and they helped me get a job. They watched the children while I was at work, and we were able to reunite. I went back to my mom's and started to, like, going to women's groups and stuff like that, and started getting my life back on track.
So you had your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And did you ever hear from him again?
No.
Never?
Mm-mm. No, thank God.
Where do you think he is today?
I don't know.
He's out there somewhere.
He could be dead. I don't know.
How much older was he?
A lot older than me. I'm talking about like 20 years older than me or so. Yeah. Yeah. So I was able to get away. And I honestly wanted to do this video because, like, I was so ashamed for so long about everything that I'd been through. And, like, I was like, how could I, I'm so smart. How could I be in something like that? And it's not about how smart you are. It's not about how rich, poor. It's about if you're deceived, if you are deceived, because there's people out there that will use you and abuse you. And
whether it's a pimp or a pedophile,
right.
or a cult
Oh,
leader.
yeah. Doesn't matter who it is. There's so many different ways depending on, and I thought I was such a disappointment. I'm like, well, who cares at this point? But it's like, no, my family did care about me. And there was people out there, I think they were more upset with me because they're like, what happened to you? Like, I lost a lot of people. It's okay. My family didn't know how to deal with me. And I really I wanted to get better. Like, I wanted to heal because I'm like, I just felt like no one could understand me. So when I watch these videos that you do, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I'm broken just like everybody else. Doesn't matter who I thought I was. It doesn't matter But
this was how many years ago?
This is, I left in 2012.
So it's been a while.
Yeah. But it took me this long to actually, I tell my story in little pieces, but not like to the full extent.
Looking back at it now, do you just, it's like
I'm like,
a bad dream.
Yeah, I'm like, what happened? Like, what happened? But I want to, I say that now because I want to help people. I want to help women get out of abusive situations, whatever it is. And I know that it's possible. It's definitely possible. A lot of healing, you have to heal before you can help anybody else. But I didn't think that I could heal the way I have, but I don't take any credit for that because I was praying the whole time, so I can't take any credit for any of that. The person that you see now is not. Yeah.
And you're doing fine now. Your kids are fine.
Yeah. Everybody's fine. Everybody is so good. My mom and I, we made like we have a better relationship now. She was so mad at me for so long. She's like, you could do anything. You're so smart and you're beautiful and you're good with people. And but now I can take all of this and I just want to help other women. So there's a couple things that I'm doing right now. And a couple, I still kind of don't want to talk about like certain aspects because I don't know if he's going to find this video or not. But I wasn't like in hiding for a while. But at the same time, I do want other women to know that you can get out and to not give up, no matter how crazy your story is, that, you still have a voice and someone definitely can relate to your story, no matter how crazy it is. Because I look at more like cult stuff and I realize like how people get in it and the women that stay and then the people that leave, and how they never got like better. Like there's people that got better, but then there's people that got out of it and they like committed suicide and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, I'm just thankful that I didn't go down that path, that I have my children, I have, something to live for. Like, I can't just, now that I got out, I can't just give up now.
Do you think there was a personality weakness or flaw that you may have had at that age?
Yeah.
What was that?
I think I wanted to do something bigger, but I didn't have the discernment. Like, I wanted to do something with my life, but I didn't, I was so young, like, I was so impressionable, like, like I said,
I mean, you had your dad around in your life.
Yeah, I had my dad around.
And, sometimes a dad's job with a child is to teach them the difference between shit and shinola.
Right.
And you fell for the shit.
Yeah. I think that it came so far out of left field that my whole family did not know what to do. Like, it just came out of left field. My family, like, we grew up Catholic, so they weren't religious. They did it out of tradition. But I always kind of had, like, this spiritual inkling to me. Like, I always wanted to know more. Like, I was always a critical thinker, kind of analyze everything. But I think they just didn't know how to go about it because it was so, like, I mean, I've always been a bold person, but that was, like, out of left field. Like, no one saw that coming. So, I mean, how do people react to that? If your family member gets into something like that, like, you don't even know what to do.
And if your boyfriend that you left at the time, if he came back into your life and said,
no, we actually started talking just as, friends, like, we have, and he started telling me, he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what are you sorry about? Like, he's like, the cops came and they thought I did something to you. Like, they thought, like, I murdered you or something. Like, there was, like, a whole, like, I didn't know this until I spoke to him. He's like, so he's like, did you ever find it in your heart to forgive me? And I'm like, I forgave you a long time ago. Like, you didn't do anything, He's like, yeah, but I kind of, like, went along with it. I let you go. And I was like,
But if he had tried to talk you out of it, were you able to be talked out of it?
I think I might have. I probably wouldn't have left the way that I did. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It was all these spiritual things happening and him saying the right things to kind of catch me, to grab me. So, yeah. But now, I mean, I can see a con artist from 5 miles, like, miles and miles away. Like, if I don't feel something, I'll feel something in my spirit that I'm just like, no. Like, so it's actually, no, I'm actually grateful for everything, as crazy as that seems, because I have more compassion on people than I've ever had in my life. That's, like, why I watch your videos and I'm like, those people are precious. Like, whatever, they're on drugs, they're on they're still precious. Like, they're worth fighting for. And so another thing, when I went on the road, I saw a lot of things. So I could give you an example. When I was in South Dakota, we were by Pine Ridge Reservation, which is it probably is the most poverty-stricken reservation in America, as of right now. And we were there, and we met this family, and they were talking with us. We were talking for hours, and she told me that there was a winter that was so cold that they had to burn their clothes to keep warm. They, like, got snowed in, and it became night, and they were cooking dinner, but I didn't realize all of these insects started coming out of the holes of their house. Like, that's how poor they were. They were just, like, and I'm talking about, like, 10 different insects coming in, not just roaches. I'm talking about bugs that I didn't even know what they were. And I felt so bad. Like, it did something to me because I was so, I didn't grow up like that. So it did, like, it changed me as a person to see that. And I'll never forget it. And she's like, oh, do you want to eat dinner over here? And I'm like, no. Like, I didn't know how to say, like, no thank, but they were so sweet and they were so hospitable. But it did something. I like went back to the car and I think I just wept because I was just like, so I started seeing things like that totally turned me completely into this, like, it changed me. It changed me for the better. I could give you another example. We went to the Crow Reservation. There was like this speaking festival thing going on, and there was a woman there, and it's by Billings, and it's freezing cold. And her father would just be on the street, drunk, just like in the snow, in the cold. And she would go up to him. I'm like, who is that guy? Like, and she's like, oh my goodness, that's my dad. And we would run over there. We'd get him out of the snow. And I'm like, what? Like, you're just coming over to your, like, I don't know how. And then I thought about my dad and that, you know, he drank a little bit, but I thought, what if that was my dad? Like, my heart just, like, something was happening to me. Like, I was having more compassion on people because I was such a selfish person that, like, I totally saw people in a different way. Totally saw people in a different way. I can't even describe it now. Like, so all of that to say, like, I love the person that I am now than the person that I was. And, you know, that's what I'm grateful for. I really am. So we're starting, there's other women that I've been with that we're starting to help, I'm starting to learn from them, to help women and what they go through, whether it's support groups, you know, whether it's, you know, abuse, you know, sex trafficking, all that kind of stuff. So I'm linking up with different people to start doing that. Like, that's what I want to do in life. And that's why I kind of wanted to put this video out.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think helping others is probably the key for your healing as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your story.
All right, thank you.